Hello and welcome to the first Live at the Lounge of the decade. It's the decade, man. That's a good one right there. It's the 2020s, and today was actually the first time I wrote 2019 by mistake. It was actually on my show notes. I was going to say, how's your 2019? I said, well shit, hang on a minute. So anyway, this is Live at the Lounge. I'm Sam, this is Alex, and all the way on the end is David, and we are live at Cavalier Cigar Company, brought to you by the good folks at the Texas Media Foundry. It is, Sunday the 19th of January already. Mm-hmm. It's an interactive podcast, so we are watching it. We do monitor the feed, and we will answer any comments or questions, or we might not if we don't like you. That's entirely up to us. So anyway, without further ado, it's the 2020, year in anticipation?
2020 kickoff show.
Kickoff show, yeah. So we're going to bring on a guest tonight, and then David's out next week, and we're not going to be able to get the three of us together for a few more weeks. So
Where you going?
I'll be in Daytona.
Daytona, yeah.
Yes.
He likes to watch them go round and round.
Yeah, left and right turns.
Why are you going to Daytona?
I have, for the last 2 years, my third year in a row, gone to the 24 Hours of Daytona, which is in Daytona Beach, Florida.
Now, do you actually sleep when you go there, or do you just stay up for all 24 hours?
So the first year I went, I stayed up about 30 hours because you get there for the pre-race and then watch the start. And the first 6 or 7 hours is a bunch of fun. The middle 18 or middle 12 gets a little tiring.
You're being monotonous, maybe.
Yeah, a little tiring in the middle 12, and then the last 6 hours like another sprint race again.
Now, is the track lit at night, or do they just use the headlights?
No, it is extremely well lit.
There's some tracks they just use the headlights in there.
Yeah, Le Mans is that way.
That would absolutely, terrify me.
200 miles an hour down the Mulsanne Straight.
Using headlights.
Using your headlights.
Yeah. You've got to have a whole lot of faith in the fact that there's not going to be anything laid in the track.
Or an animal.
Exactly.
They've had some animal strikes at Le Mans.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. Didn't they have a car flip upside down at Le Mans one time?
They've had a lot of cars flip upside down at Le Mans.
No, aerodynamically.
Yes.
Was that the Mercedes?
No, that was the CLK GTR.
Yes. Yeah.
And then the 917 did it at 1.2.
Oh, I never saw that 917. Yeah.
But so Daytona is arguably the best track in racing to watch sports car racing at. And the reason is, so Daytona's a big track. I'm not a NASCAR fan. I don't watch a lot of it. But Daytona is considered a super speedway. I think it's like a 2.5 mile oval. It's massive. And so most tracks are...
It's an oval, like for 24 hours?
Well, I'm getting to that.
Okay.
Most road courses are, you can't see the entire track.
Right.
You pick a section to watch from, you see the cars go by, and then you wait 2 to 8 minutes, depending what track you're on, and they come by again.
Have a beer, have some peanuts.
Daytona's interesting because it is a road course, so it's left and right turns. Mm-hmm. However, it is laid entirely inside the oval. So from many vantage points, you can see every point of the track.
Do they get on the banking then?
Yes,
they do.
Texas World Speedway.
Because I remember at TWS, getting on the banking was never a problem, but getting off it was, I don't care how many times you've done it, it was always sketchy.
Well, so Daytona's not a true oval. It's the front straight is pretty rounded. They use about 90% of the oval in the race. But when they come down the front straight, and then about the start-finish line, they have to get on the brakes, and they turn off the front straight and go back into the infield. Then they come right back onto the front straight.
We got very well sidetracked into Daytona, didn't we?
Yes.
All right.
But what I was getting to was, from a sports car racing perspective, it is easily the best track to watch at for a spectator. You can see the entire track. You have access to the entire track. It is a carnival atmosphere. There's literally like a Ferris wheel and like a roller coaster and everything in there. There's hospitality. There's food all night. There's people camp out there.
Sounds like a fun time.
I've talked to a couple of the drivers say that like 1, 2 in the morning you'll be coming around the banking and all you smell is hamburgers.
You see,
I thought you were going to say
what he hasn't let on was, did you see that? I talked to a couple of the drivers. I talked to a couple of drivers that raced the Daytona 24-hour race. You know, just drops that in there, just nice and smooth.
I was just moving smooth by it, but okay.
Yeah, so he talks to drivers.
Well, in contrast, the 24 Hours of Le Mans is run on public roads. There's only a short.
No way! I didn't know that. How did I not know that?
All of the Le Mans track, the Circuit de la Sarthe, is 85 to 90% public roads.
That's amazing.
They shut them down for the race.
So like Monaco, then.
Sometimes into the stands, like 55.
Yes, different issue. But because of that, it's privately owned land on both sides of the track. So you can only see it from like 3 vantage points. and it's an 8-mile track.
It sounds like. But what if you had a house that was on the track? That would be pretty. Like the Isle of Man TT.
Well, people sell. You can go on Airbnb.
I would totally go to the Isle of Man.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, you can go on Airbnb and rent like a 10 by 10 section on somebody's yard that backs up to like the Mulsanne Strait.
I'd totally do that.
And it's not cheap.
All right,
but
so we've really got to get back onto business though, because it's.
Do we?
Well, it's been a very good year so far for business, hasn't it? So let's start with Alex and real estate, because.
So not how was your week, but how's your year going?
Yeah,
how did your
year?
year close out? And how is your new year going? Because our last show was about this time last month.
We deliberately took a break.
Yeah.
Old Tex back there at Texas Media Foundry had earned a break, if we're being fair.
Yeah.
And whilst we hadn't, we're the shirkers of the podcast.
Yeah.
We got to give the fellas a few weeks off because we're not really paying them very much. So thank you again, Texas Media Foundry, for helping us out. But yeah, tell us. Start with the open house. Start with what you want. I mean, you've been a busy little fella, haven't you?
Yeah.
Busy little
fuck, yeah. No, it was really good. There's some light at the end of the tunnel. Definitely got to keep filling the funnel. But
it's not a train this time.
It's not a train. So the year started off well. So far, we have had 2 closings. We have 3 more by the end of the month. Or I say I do.
3, 4.
But
and then another one a week after. So I think the company we got 4 more now.
It'll be 5. There's that small land listing.
See,
so no matter what, I mean,
everything
everything counts. Yeah.
Yeah, they all close, mate. Yeah, all of them.
Did an open house, and then doing a open house and a workshop next weekend. So
tell us a little bit about that workshop, mate.
So it's a investment property. A good friend of mine, Matt, he's in Thailand right now on his honeymoon, and he got a property for what is a good deal, and I think putting a little bit of money into it. And I say a little bit of money, 10, 15.
So you're doing the whole Chip and Joanna thing now.
I don't know.
Because I've sent they I don't know, they're like. People call Karen watch them a bunch.
Okay.
They buy houses and tear them out, and then they have arguments, and then the woman always wins the argument.
Right.
But that's just hearsay. I've never actually watched the show, but
Okay.
It's a very popular house flipping show on a house flipping channel.
Right.
But I think it'd be cool to send cameras in and show.
So we're
show the renovation.
Yeah. So we're gonna do that. I'm gonna get a Matterport of the before and after, but really figuring out a lot of people, they get worked up as far as they get real excited, and then they hit one little stumbling block and then they can't get through it. So the whole workshop is going to be actually seeing a property that somebody bought recently, what all went into it from start to finish of closing, to getting the offers in, to negotiating, and then what they're going to do, and then what they should intend to sell. Because getting those home runs all the time is not about you can't do it. But if you can make $15,000 of clear profit off of a flip that maybe cost, you got it for $61,000.
Yeah.
But we should, when it's fixed up, be able to sell it for $110,000.
Well, what a lot of people lose sight on with investing, be it the stock market or be it in real estate or be it wherever. You make money off of consistency. Mm-hmm. It goes back to baseball. You're better off getting to first base every single time than you are swinging for the fences and hitting home runs.
Yep.
So whilst the idea of a $15,000 profit might be a lot, it might not be a lot to some investors. When you look at it like, I can make $15,000 12 times this year, mm-hmm. and all of a sudden there's a $190,000 profit. Well, hey, that wasn't too bad. That was an okay year. So,
and you asked how it was, and you can always say, it went okay. It could have gone better. Things can always go better, and things can always go worse. In my book, and so. When you look at it, even if you had an open house every single weekend, and maybe you had one person that came to that open house and they might not buy something for 3 years, you still made a contact. And as long as you don't waste your time, even when I'm there, when things aren't going on, if there's nobody in the house, I'm still on my phone. I'm still updating things.
It's back to what we always talk about. One of our key marketing strategies that we've used very successfully in real estate with the Living College Station brand, and now even more successfully, I'm pleased to say, on media with the Media Foundry brand, is that authority. So by what a lot of people don't realise is by people use the internet to search for 2 things. One is for information, and the second is for entertainment. And that's it, right? They want to be informed, or they want to be entertained, or maybe a little bit of both. So when you are giving information for free, they are seeing you as a teacher, and that's establishing the trust they're going to need to come in and buy something from you. It's exactly how the media foundries built their presence on LinkedIn by giving away information. Tex goes on there like very, very consistently, a couple of times a week, talking about filmmaking and how it applies to different areas of industry. And when people look for those answers, they look at Tex, and he's the one telling them how it works. And I mean, just building validation within a business. So as you continue to do that in real estate, you know, like you said, those 3-year relationships, all of a sudden 3 years from now, you've got 500 people that know you as a teacher and know that you are the authority on what it is you're speaking about. So the power of the video marketing is just, I love it. I couldn't be happier with it.
And what's also interesting is that that's not even my listing. That's how, you know, outgoing and how much I'm really trying to get out there in some way, shape, or form, because a lot of agents could say, I don't have a listing, I can't do an open house.
Yeah.
You can call other agents, you can ask them to do an open house, you can offer to sit there and drum up traffic, and you keep the leads if you get a good buyer lead. And there's no shortage for agents out there. I mean, if somebody honestly in real estate ever told me they had nothing to do, I would be very shocked.
There's a lot of very lazy real estate agents, and that's just, it's part of the territory, because you know, a lot of them, for, you know, it's a second income. It's not a you know, full-blown career. So yeah, if I've worked all week and my only time with my kids is my weekend, I'm not going to want to do an open house either.
Sure.
So again, that's why
I'll do it for you.
Only hire full-time agents.
So if you're a real estate agent and you don't want to do a Saturday open house, give me a call. And I do a good job. I mean, there's a lot of people that have open houses, and I saw one a couple weeks ago. Somebody I was going to go help, and I went to meet them at one of theirs. They weren't even there. They had unlocked the door because it was an unoccupied house, and just left a stack of business cards.
It was technically open.
Yeah.
I mean, they fulfilled their contractual obligation. This house is open. Carry on.
I mean, there's so many small little details you can do to make everybody's life so much easier. I mean, one of the easiest ones, I put a little sign right by the front door. It says, "No need to knock, come in." Alex Jester, live in College Station, because it feels really awkward if I'm talking to somebody in the house and the doorbell rings.
Yeah.
I have to leave that conversation, run down there. They're waiting, and now they have to meet me at the door, and it's let them walk in and just
I mean, absolutely.
Peruse at their leisure.
Yeah.
I love it, and it just this is going to sound derogatory, and I'm trying to not make it sound derogatory, but I'm from a different culture. Obviously, I have a different upbringing, different raising, and there's the same amount of opportunity in England to succeed as there is in America to succeed. But why I found it so much easier in America is that people don't seem to make the effort that's required. The successful guys in America are the guys like you that go and hold open houses and put the time in and put the work in. This is just the land of opportunity. It's like work goes in and money comes out, you know. And the only thing in England is there's more people fighting for it. There just doesn't seem to be a desire amongst a lot of people. You know, I talk to so many kids that are unhappy with what they're doing as part of, you know, part of mentoring and passing this shit on. I talk to so many kids, and I'm like, guys, you're valuing your time by the hour. You know, you've got to value your time as time. It's the only commodity you've got. You know, what is it worth? And
it's the only thing you can't make or buy more of.
Right.
What?
And by
Time.
by working now, I am buying my time back in the future. I am just trying to buy the rest of my life from myself. And I'm never going to do that working on an hourly wage. So it's got to break those shackles, guys. You know, 10x your life. Was that what it is?
Oof.
I forget.
There's the cease and desist letter coming.
You know, that's rough, is that, actually, because, you know, Grant Cardone catches a lot of shit for that 10x. He catches a lot of that shit for that happy, like, and I put off listening to that. My mate Adam sent me Grant Cardone's stuff a year ago, and I put off listening to it, and I'm sorry, Adam, I really am, because I finally listened to it a couple of weeks ago, and even though that I'd already been, I digest a lot of sales materials, so I already knew pretty much everything he was talking about. The strange thing was, when I listened to that book, I felt like he was talking directly to me, and that made more difference in accepting his content than anything else. And I think that Grant Cardone catches a lot of stick because he's very flashy, he's very in your face, he's very matter of fact, this is who I am and I'm great. And then when you pull back from that and you actually listen in depth to his work, you realise he is actually pretty fucking great and he's talking directly to you. So if you have not taken on board 10X by Grant Cardone, at Adam's recommendation, and to my great apologies, go and get it, read it, and it's a really good book.
It's one of those things that if you have something and it works, like Gary Vaynerchuk, he's got a lot where somebody says, oh, you say the same things over and over again. You tell people to go and do the retail arbitrage and buy things that are on for sale, like big deep discounts, and then resell them. And he's like, it works. And he's like, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. He said, but it works. And there was another guy, and he said that he went and was buying like ice creams from a vendor and would go down to the busy beach on the summer, and he'd sell them out of the cooler, and he'd make $100. So then he went and bought 5 coolers, and he started doing that.
Dude, I did that at school. I did it at school,
right?
Literally till they put fucking vending machines in the school,
right? So then he took his friends and he did the same thing with them, and he said he had 5 friends who would go out there and they would make $100, and there would be one of those guys who would go and get another cooler.
Right.
And the other guys, they eventually just stopped doing it. He's like, why? Are you making that money? And they were like, well, I don't want to do it. He's like, well, then you're
right.
You're not.
So I wanted to touch while we're in this subject. You're bang on the point. So I've got a camera guy, an outstanding fucking cameraman, Joe.
Bang on the point.
And Joe has posted in the chat thread. He's posted, yeah, for real, I'm due up for a raise. Absolutely, you're due for a raise, Joe. And here's the thing: I will pay you, mate, exactly what you are worth. Let that sink in, right? I will give you as much fucking money as you want. As much of it as you want, right? So we'll have a chat and we'll figure that out. But I will pay you as much money as you are worth to the company, my friend. And I hope that is an outstanding amount. That's all I gotta say. All right? Value. All right, moving on. You've had a busy week. Busy month. Tell us about that.
I've had a very busy month.
Look at his face, poor lad.
So
I want to start with this busy month,
yeah.
right? Because it was 8 years to the day, 2 days ago, 8 years to the day when David and I first worked together. David was a mechanic in an operation that I was a part of, and it was his second day at work.
It was pretty early.
It was first, second, third day at work. David, I get a call from a number I don't recognise, so I hang up because I was busy. And then I get another call, so I pick it up, and it's David, and he's telling me, hey, we need to send a truck. I've been in a little wreck. I'm like, well, no big, just drive it back. He's like, no, it's a bit bigger than that. I'm like, all right. So anyway, we get out there, and poor David's totaled a BMW. This is the start of his career with the company, and he's totaled a BMW. So he's a mechanic with a total BMW 3 days into his first job 8 years ago. Now I've set that up. Tell him, because I am very, 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 I don't tell him enough, but I'm very proud of what he's done. So tell him where you've come from in the last 8 years from wrecking my fucking BMW.
I will stand by the fact on that BMW. The first thing that he thought was I was on my phone texting.
I did. I was like, he's on his fucking phone.
Because you were at the office and you came in Jenny's truck. I think she was there at the time too.
I don't remember any of it.
You drove up in the truck. It was the old 06 GMC. And the first thing that you thought was I was on my fucking phone.
You weren't. It was on the table at the office.
I wasn't. The phone was on my desk at the office.
Yeah. Is his wife's name, is it Jenny?
Jenny.
Are you saying Jenny or Jenny?
Jenny. It's short for Virginia.
Okay, you're saying Jenny. Okay.
Okay.
Just whatever.
Inflection J or G, whatever you want to hear it as.
It's fine.
Okay. I thought it was Jenny. No,
moving swiftly on.
Let's bring her on and ask her.
Yeah. So I stand by to this day that the brakes did not function as intended. What doesn't help me in that situation is I was returning from getting a state inspection on the vehicle, which it passed,
with functioning brakes,
which includes a brake test. So that's a tough sell. However,
luckily the woman he hit was an illegal immigrant. She ran away.
The whole car emptied out and ran away. Both cars, if I recall correctly, there were three cars involved.
Wasn't there?
Yeah, and the two that were in front of me that I hit one that pushed into another one, all evacuated.
They both ran away.
The cops showed up and went, "Who was in these cars?" I went, "They ran away."
They ran away. So that really, luckily there was no liability claim.
Because they all ran away.
Yeah.
So the last several months, but it culminated Friday, I've been overseeing and helping with the sale of a dealership that I've been involved in for the last 2 years. If I had to recommend something as a low stress opportunity, It's not selling a store.
So what was your role at the dealership?
Well, I was the GM at the store.
So the general manager of a, and how
franchise, two brands,
general manager, what, 60 units a month on a good month?
60 to 75, yeah.
Right.
Is it little brands?
Yeah.
8 years. 8 years. Right?
From wrecking a BMW.
That goes to show, know your fucking worth and go to work.
Yeah.
That's it. Know what you're worth and go get it. 8 years from turning spanners in a barn outside a used car dealership to overseeing a multi-million-dollar transaction and franchise sale. I would say that's, go and get it. Go and fucking work.
No, it's true.
Go and get it.
It was my early 20s, and I committed to. I decided one day that I wanted to make more money, and
It's probably because we were teasing you about walking everywhere.
I was on the Shoe Leather Express, and
we had a car club at the time called BCS Street.
Yes.
And we made him a specific member, a special member, and we named his club BCS Feet. I mean, we were pretty mean to the kid, to be honest.
But I made a decision in my early 20s that I saw too many people in their 40s and 50s working their ass off with nothing to show for it, not retiring into their 60s and 70s, and I said, I don't want to do that.
That was one of the reasons I got into marketing, because looking around the oil and gas career, there was a bunch of guys in their 50s and 60s. All they did was work and
Well,
drink.
I was working with mechanics.
I didn't want to be there.
When I was a mechanic at Toyota, I was working with guys that were in their 50s and 60s, putting the same hours I was doing.
And you got to look and say, where's my Ferrari?
Yeah,
I'm not going to get it doing this.
Their bodies were worn out, their time was worn out, and they just hated what they were doing.
There's a lot of industries like that.
Yeah.
Construction, but a lot of
I mean, they made good money, but there's a very hard ceiling.
Right.
Certain jobs are only worth so much money.
And
that's,
if it's not the ceiling, it's also the progression that even if you're getting that consistent raise, it's not going. It keeps you up.
You've got
with
to keep adding to your skill set.
Right.
As you get older, if you want more money, you've got to increase your skills.
Well, but I made the commitment.
That's why people change careers.
Yeah.
You know.
I made the commitment to, I was going to put in the time and the hours necessary to figure out how to be successful by the time I got to 30. I had some goals laid out that I wanted to be at a certain place financially by the time I got to 30. And I got there about between 28 and 29. And then it was setting the next set of goals. And I established in that time that 5-year plans are bullshit. It is, you can have a goal, but everybody tells you to sit down and lay out the path to how you're going to get there.
Right.
If you do that, you will not be mobile enough to seize opportunities. And that's what I've seen is where there were several opportunities that I took that if I had laid out a specific plan, I wouldn't have taken.
You've got to be able to pivot, though, as opportunities come in. If you'd have asked me 3 months ago, would we be 10 weeks out from opening a retail art gallery in downtown Bryan, I'd have told you you're absolutely out of your mind.
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming, but it's an opportunity. We took it, we seized it, and it's just building momentum again. You know,
but
that's why people change careers so many times.
But yeah, we finished closing Friday around lunchtime. We were supposed to close on the 3rd, and it got delayed.
Dragged on a bit. Well, that sort of closing, that level of complexity,
it's a complex operation.
Because it wasn't just, it's not like you're just selling a building.
Right.
You've got a building, you've got inventory, you've got assets, you've got
got blue sky, you've got everything.
You've got the rights, you've got everything that goes with it. So
not only that, but you have to line up all the parties involved.
The fact that it was only delayed 2 weeks is really, really good, actually.
You have to line up all the parties involved, and that was what got complicated. Was you weren't just trying to line up a buyer and a seller. You were trying to line up a representative from each manufacturer. You were trying to line up a representative from the floor plan financing company on both sides. You're trying to line up a representative from the software and hardware support company that everything's leased from.
Oh, there's a terrible amount of work.
Would it have been even more difficult the fact that you had 2 brands instead of 1, because then you have to...
Not necessarily.
Do it twice.
They a lot of times they use the same companies to do things. So like their asset audit companies are the same.
Okay.
Everybody uses the same couple of companies that do certain things.
Okay.
Right.
So they were just there with 2 different handhelds and did both inventories at once.
Okay.
But it is getting down into the nitty gritty at closing of going through the little stuff. The receivables, we call them WIOs, which are things that are work that was promised to somebody as part of a deal that has to still be done.
Right, so for example, if you sell somebody a car and there's a different set of wheels and they want the other set of wheels, you write it out.
It could be something as simple as window tint.
Right, yeah.
So that stuff is done by an outside vendor.
It's still another $150 charge or $200 or another $400 or whatever it works out at. So, that's all going to be counted.
There was, we got into a contest over a specific vehicle where it was a new car, had never been titled. It was still on an MCO, which is an MCO or an MSO is a manufacturer's certificate or statement of origin, which is new cars don't have titles because they're still new.
You can't title
so
them.
you have a piece of paper that's got the manufacturer's logo on top of it, and it says, this vehicle that weighs this much, produced on this date, in this model year, has this VIN number. And you turn that into the state, and they turn that into a title, and that becomes a used car at that point. Well,
so it's still technically new, but it's been driven.
Well, no. This was a car that had
now.
this. Right, this is a car that specifically this unit that the manufacturer, it had like 20 miles on it, and through some paperwork snafu had been registered into a program of service loaner, where cars that are used when people bring cars into their vehicle into the shop, we give them a vehicle to drive. Well, that car's in this weird limbo land where it is still officially a new car. However, its in-service date clock has started running, so its warranty is running, and it has miles on it. They have anywhere between 2,000 and 10,000 miles.
Right.
Well, this specific vehicle was never supposed to be in that status. Well, because it's sitting on your lot and it's listed with your manufacturer, you don't go analyze every week.
So how did you fix it?
Rattling enough cages.
You see, that's the thing. You just sell a building, it's just a building. You just sell a piece of land, it's a piece of land. But when you sell a business, there's a whole lot to account for that you don't, you don't take into account.
I had a conversation with one of the people in our organization about it after it happened and about the closing in general. And I said, I'll say this: any experience is good experience, and I really appreciate the fact that I got to do something that most people will never, even in my business, will never do, experience, or help oversee in their career because they're not that common.
Right.
And that being said, I don't want to do one again anytime soon.
No, I mean, you can try something, and if you don't like it, it's okay. Now
that's another thing you're talking about, like always developing skill sets. So even if there's somebody out there and you're a mechanic at a shop,
you don't quit your job. You work extra hours developing a nice skill.
You talk to people, ask them, what's going on. How, like, do you need any help? Can I help you? I mean, I'm sure you would have taken some extra bodies to do some different things around there.
That's how you got in house with us. We were busy, and you said, "Can I help?" And I threw some keys at you and said, "Yes, go help."
Well, and that was
you have to ask though.
Well, originally when I started working at the lot, I was still working 60+ hours a week with Toyota as a mechanic, and I was coming when we closed at 6 o'clock. I was driving straight over to your place and spending 2, 3, 4 hours a night doing work there.
Yeah, but we had fun, didn't we?
Yeah, it was a blast.
We drank a lot of alcohol.
We did drink a lot of alcohol, but the cars were fixed. The alcohol was afterwards.
Very much so.
But it's going back to the fact that you asked, you reached out to somebody, and I can go back to anything I've ever done or anything I've made advancements in, and it all came from wanting to learn more, wanting to do more, wanting to talk to people.
That's
how I got into oil and gas.
Right.
If I had not made the jump, to go full time over at Specialist, because on paper it didn't make any sense. I was on a master track with Toyota.
I know, but it was a good laugh.
It was a good laugh.
And you've got to enjoy going to work.
Well, no, it's true, but something told me I need to make this jump, and it was a leap of faith, because.
Now 8 years later, look at you now.
No, and it's true, because not only in my industry do very few people jump across the aisle, as we call it, from fixed ops to variable ops, from service to sales. Very, very seldom, I mean, low percentage points of people ever make it to an operator level from the fixed op side. It's such a rarity. And so, the speed of my ascension has a lot to do with the way that I got in the business.
Well, it's how I ascended at oil and gas. It wasn't the fact that, it was easy to get.
I'm not any better at the job than a lot of other people.
I made a point of it, right? I beat this guy's door down for 18 months. I made friends with him, and what happened, I went to a training class that I paid for out of my own pocket, and I ended up sitting in a row behind his sister. And we got to talking, and she called him and said, "You need to hire this boy." I called him one more time. I said, "I've just done this. I'm looking at 3 other companies." And he said, "Come on, I'll find a place for you." But where I ascended fast at that company was the fact that you could come and go as you please. We're all 1099. So a lot of the guys would drift in about 9 and they'd drift out again about 4, right? Well, I'd come out of construction. So I was already starting work at 7 in the morning. So I just made it my goal to be at the office by 7:30, because then I could do my studying, learn the work they'd given me, be a little productive and be ready to go. So I made a little mental note to just be the coffee maker. I did not drink coffee when I started in oil and gas law. I didn't. And by getting to the office first, being a coffee maker, when the owner or the crew chief got in, and it was 10 till 8, there's fresh coffee made, the lights are on, and I look around, okay, well this is new, because people don't start surfacing until about 8:30 here. And then when there was a problem, and they would come looking down the hallway, is so-and-so here? No, sir. And, well, can you do this? Yeah, I'll take care of that. And I get on my computer and I fucking Google it, like right there. I had no idea what I was doing. But the fact that nobody was there to do it, the guy was in a bind, and within 2 years, I was his absolute right hand in the fucking shop, and it was great.
Well, that was my thing in the auto industry, is that when I got into the franchise side of the business, again, it's uncommon to start in the independent side and transition to franchise with much success. When I got into the franchise side of the business, I actually took a step back, came in as a salesperson, somewhat because I wanted some time off, because we had really been pushing really, really hard as specialists for 24 months at that point.
Long enough, yeah.
Yeah, and it
like
was
90-hour weeks. It's hard. It's a grind.
Well, we were leaving at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning
to go get cars and just
go to the auction,
10
buy
o'clock
them.
at night, be still writing car deals.
Yeah,
I mean.
and we did that for probably 24 months at that pace.
Yeah.
And
it was hard work, man.
I wanted to take a step back, and it was September 13. I went to the Ford dealer locally, and I was a salesperson. And by December, they figured out that I had special finance experience, which is people with challenged or no credit, and they moved me into their finance department. So you're my new special finance guy.
Right.
And then a month later, they get a new GM who goes, you have used car experience, you're my new used car manager.
There you go.
And I made some expensive mistakes, but one of the things that you figure out is that when you get into higher level operations, your salary, a monkey could do my job 80% of the time.
Right. It's what 20% they pay you for.
What they're paying me for is the mistakes I've made on somebody else's dime.
Right.
It's, I hold by this, that a mistake made more than once is a choice.
Absolutely.
If you make the same mistake again, and I drill this in anybody that I work with's head, is that think about what you've done, think about what you've been through.
Part of being a mentor and part of being a leader is accepting mistakes and helping to correct them as you go, and then you get disappointed when they come again, but maybe that was on me as a leader. Maybe I didn't explain well
One
enough.
of the things that I've been able to do in my career is I've been able to communicate extremely well with variable ops, with the service side of the business, because that's where I came from. I can speak the language that mechanics speak. I can speak the language that parts guys speak, that advisors speak, that service managers speak. And so where I really was able to shine was I had more trouble communicating with salespeople than I did with technicians.
Right.
But salespeople are easy. They're all type A personalities. They're all hard to deal with. But I could go in the shop, and I had a good enough relationship with all my technicians that if the rule was, if you fuck up, come tell me. I'm never going to get mad at you.
Yeah, we'll just unfuck it.
We're just going to unfuck it. And
too many people panic. There's not anything that can be fucked that can't be unfucked.
well, but that's my
it's
rule.
worse when you try to cover it
If
up.
I have to find out,
Yeah, if
I get broadsided with something, it's going to be bad.
yeah, just come to me. Let's fix it now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the quickest.
Well,
But
and
you know,
it happened a couple weeks ago where
it takes a long time to have the confidence in yourself to come out and say, hey, you know what? I screwed this up.
Yep.
Boss, I'm in trouble. You know, as an employee, you tend to want to kind of cover that up, but it's way better if
but then you have to commit to your reaction. And that's the hard part is, if you go to your guys and say, no matter how bad it is, come tell me and I won't get angry and we'll handle it. When, I had a situation mid-December, we're trying to wrap this thing up, we're pushing towards closing, I'm stressed out of my mind, I'm working a ton of hours again trying to get this thing to the finish line, and one of the techs comes into my office and goes, I fucked up. That's how he opens the conversation. Okay, what happened? He goes, just come with me. Oh God. So I'm expecting to walk out and see a car laying on top of another car, laying on top of two technicians, a porter, and a bus full of nuns, right?
Yeah.
And what it was something as simple as he had backed a car out of a lift and backed it into another car. So you had two customer cars involved.
Right.
Not great.
Not great, but
okay.
Gotta be fixed. We can fix
Everybody
it.
makes mistakes.
Just take care of it. Yeah.
And I handled it, and everybody was happy.
You're worth far more to me as a competent, well-trained employee that makes a mistake than me having to fire you and go and find another employee and train them.
Well, this same guy had made a mistake that cost $6,500, ballpark, about $6,500. And what it came down to, and we sat down and talked, and I said, look, you are rushing to try to get one or two more oil changes in a day. Let's do the math. I make $15 to $20 in oil change by the time it's all said and done on these special
Yeah.
promo oil changes. How many oil changes do you have to do extra to make up for $6,500?
Right.
Alex's dinner's ready.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
His
Alex
sous
is
vide
fucking,
just texted him.
His,
Well, it kept-
his oven just fucking texted him to
It
say his dinner's ready.
It kept buzzing, and I was like, what is going on?
Welcome
I
to
love
welcome
it.
to 2020.
Alex is talking to his oven right now, telling it
It's
to
the-
turn the temperature down on the
It's
potatoes.
the sous vide.
Oh
but
my God.
No, there's a lot to be said with that, and also I think there's a lot to be said as being a leader to being open for those. And I can remember a time very specifically. I mean, it's one of those like I fucked up times, and it was at my old job, and we were working. It was after hours, and I was staying late, and they knew that. I stay late, work on things, and I was working on a piece of equipment, and I mixed up these two wires, and I plugged them in the wrong ones, and the board fried. And
Oops.
it was supposed to go back, to a customer the next day. Like that's why I was there. It was shipping out the next morning. And I remember I just went straight to him, and I was like, I messed up, and I was like, I plugged these in, it fried the board, and I was like, I don't think it's going to be something that we can replace. And I remember I even said, I was like, if I got to work this off, and they're like, no, they're like, it's part of business, it happens,
It's an inherent risk.
and they're like, thanks for letting us know. So what I did is I helped them fix it though. I got in contact with the manufacturer, and they were like, do you have any of the old systems there? The boards haven't changed, but this chip would fry. And they said, take one of those old chips off of that, and then use the chip that didn't fry on the new board, and plug it into the old board. And I told the customer that, and they're like, as long as it works, it's fine. And they're like, I don't care. And we fixed it. And I mean, it was like $100 instead of like a $6,000 board. Yeah. But instead of me trying to go around, and that's the thing is you don't want to be blindsided. Yeah. Hiding it is the worst.
Because it's gonna come up.
Too many people, right? Yeah. And this is from the Batman movie, the one with Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson.
The Batman with nipples.
Yeah, and Jack Nicholson, he turned in the movie. Or it was Michael Keaton. He turns in the movie, and it was after after Vicky Vale had killed herself. No, the other one, after his girlfriend, the acid one. Yeah. Anyway, he turns around and says, if you're going to make an omelette, you've got to break a few eggs. Mm-hmm. Right? And when that relates to business, it's Sam Walton's theory on shoplifting. Yeah. You're going to have shoplifters, get over it, figure it out. Yeah. Right? You're going to have shrink, build it. We're going to break eggs. We're building a fucking omelette. We're going to break eggs consistently. And it could be a $500 egg. It could be a $300 iPad screen. It could be a $3,000 or a $5,000 or whatever. If you get, like the fucking Mercedes, it was a $21,000 egg that got broke, but it was part of business, And
then the fix, like you were saying, is that it's finding out how to correct it. I mean, what caused that issue, and then it's like you get shoplifters. Is it worth it to hire a full-time security guard to stand there and watch it? The best thing about put some fake cameras up, something to deter it. Whatever the good break.
Getting at fake cameras, that is my grandfather's business. There were hundreds of cameras all over that place. And what I figured out finally was about 25 of them worked. But they were all the same style, and they had a little red blinking light on them. Yeah, if it works. It is the observation paradox, right? Mm-hmm. If people think they're being watched, they're going to act differently.
Yeah, they're going to be honest. I mean, but man, totally lost my train of thought. I was relating to Batman, omelettes, eggs. That's it. People aren't prepared to commit their fucking eggs, right? Yeah. The good thing about life, right, the only real asset you've got is time. Yeah. Right? Money's just a way of keeping score. And yeah, you need it, but it is just a way of keeping score. If you bust out, right, you can just go get more time and put the time back in. It's the time that's the value. It's the time that's the expense. So you can never break all your eggs. You can always keep trying to make omelettes.
Well, the media team just had an issue where they were trying to do some good video of the downtown area on the scooters and the skateboard, and they lost a camera because somebody had an accident, and fortunately they were okay. But you lose a $400 little camera,
and now I got to pay $400 to get another camera. But it
wasn't like they were goofing around. It was legitimate activity,
expensive work. Right. Yeah. I mean, they were goofing around, but the whole video was about goofing around. Right. And so but shit happens.
I worked with a guy that was real serious about, as a leader. The difference between a leader and a manager, right? As a leader, it's really easy to take credit when things go well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. When your boss comes to you and says, hey, sales numbers were great this month, it's great to say, man, I really appreciate it. I busted my ass. Yeah. But when shit goes wrong, it's really easy to pass that blame. Be like, yeah, the guys didn't produce, they didn't hit their numbers. If you want the accolades, you have to be the shit. Well, you have to be the first one. You need to flip that dynamic where you say, when things are great, you need to immediately put that on the people below you and say, the team really came together, they really did what they need to do. And when it fucks up, you have to be willing to stand up and say,
Right.
I didn't handle it right.
And like for
That's
my
one of your
businesses-
jobs as a boss, is to act as the shield.
Right.
Make your people look good, and
Yes.
they'll make you look good, and act as the shield. The shit flows downhill, but you have to be the stop.
You have to stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's your job to stop it. And
You are paid to take that shit.
exactly.
They're not.
Exactly. And you know, I think it comes back as the boss, you know, and it's my job, right? My only job is to make sure payroll is covered and rent is covered and
Yeah.
expenses are covered. After that, my biggest problem is I don't have clients. So I spend all my time in client acquisition. Now we've got a bunch of clients, I've got a bunch more problems, which are great problems to have.
Well, it's, you
right?
know, I remember
You
specific
solve it
situations.
one at a time.
I remember specific situations sitting there, taking the heat from a customer. That some of it was legitimate heat, and some of it was somebody being unreasonable. But what I'm paid for is to sit there and take that browbeating and solve the problem.
Right.
Whether it's legitimate or illegitimate, or to have the difficult conversations with somebody and say, you know, let's separate this into 3 issues.
Yeah.
I think 2 of these issues, you're being unreasonable. And this one, the root cause, we fucked up.
The difference between people at one level and people at the next level is that people at the next level are willing, right, to pick up the phone and find a solution to the problem. People at this level,
Yeah.
the one below, see the problem and go, oh, I'm going to avoid that. I'm going to avoid it as long as
Well,
I can.
this
I'm
car
going to
that
let it fester. I'm going to push it down the road.
Well, this car that I was talking
You
about.
spend more time worrying about the fucking conversation. Just pick up the phone.
I was, you know, I was on the phone with people that I typically deal with to deal with this kind of problem, and their answer was, well, we had to run it up the ladder. Okay, who's up the ladder? Oh, well, we don't know. We just send it up. I said, well, okay, it's not Oz. You know who works there.
Right.
You know? And so I had to go out of my way to figure out who I had to bother.
That's how it works.
How many
though.
voicemails and emails I had to leave, and who I had to upset, and who I had to inconvenience to make it their priority as well as mine.
Now, we didn't close Topgolf. No, we didn't, right? But I got Topgolf to the negotiating table by putting together a video of what their thing here could look like, and then finding the guys at Topgolf. I didn't go through site selection things. I didn't go through any of these brokers that said you'll never get a hold of him. I found the guy, I looked up his cell phone number, and I texted the CEO of Topgolf my video. And you know what? He texted me back in like under 30 minutes.
Yeah.
You know,
well, but the difference
you
is
just got to think, man.
Well,
Fucking
you
just-
know, one of the hardest things in business-to-business sales, or even in person-to-person sales, is getting past the gatekeeper. You know, with real estate, it's getting past the husband or wife. With business, it's getting past the receptionist or getting past the assistant.
I do have to stop you there and say I completely and thoroughly abuse the fact that I've got an English accent and I can get past gatekeepers very
Yes,
easily.
you can. A well-placed box of donuts and a thick English accent.
Donuts on middle-aged women will just open so many fucking doors in business, mate. Donuts, cake, flowers, that kind of stuff. And I'm very, very guilty of doing that. Because
it's also when you're dealing with, like, I dealt with a business office that handled multiple stores.
right,
And
that
so-
that is that particular guy's fucking lifeline to the world.
When
If you're in with them, you can talk to whoever
On a
you want.
semi-regular basis, I would either drop off the Starbucks coffee travelers in the morning, or I'd order Tiff's treats, or I'd order
Yeah.
something like that.
Like when I was doing land work, every freaking courthouse I was in, I'd make sure about twice a month there was donuts and hot coffee for the staff.
Yeah.
But then when you need a favour and you pick up the phone and say, hey, can you fax me this?
They're willing to go above and beyond
They
for
go
you.
and they'll pull a document and fax it for you.
They're not required to.
No, they'll just, like 99% of the guys know, go get your own document. We don't do that service here. But if I'm in a bind and you're an hour and a half away, they remember the donut, they remember the kindness.
They remember the English accent.
So it's all tied together when you talk about how somebody coming in to work early and they're showing up, they're putting the work in. That same drive and the same mentality also goes to getting through the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
You don't always just call and you get the owner of the company. You have to keep
You never
going.
get
You
the
have
owner
to
of the company
keep
these
going
days.
at them because you call and you might have somebody and they're like, what's this about? And it's like, who would be the person that does, advertising?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they say, well, it's John, he's busy. Next time you
They're
call,
always
you
busy.
say, I'm looking for John.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
And then
directly ask for that person.
Right, and so you build up and you
And
keep,
you might lie a little bit and be like, yeah, I'm looking for John. Yeah,
I was told to call him.
Oh, yeah.
Because you were.
Yeah.
You were told. And so
So
you
just
you have to keep
Hey, I was-
chipping
embellish.
away at those
I
things.
shot some information to John. We were supposed to circle back on it.
yeah.
You know,
And
Yeah,
but it
he knows
goes.
who I am.
It goes back to those things like finding those opportunities and finding those jobs. There's stories about the guy Les Brown who does some motivational speaking, And then he also does. He did some radio DJing.
Yeah.
And
Is he doing that on purpose?
Is a guy.
I don't think so.
I don't think the mic
will pick it up.
Oh, right, fair enough. They're vacuuming downstairs.
He did a radio DJing job, and he showed up and he said, "I want a job." And the guy said, "He's like, we're not hiring right now." And he came in the next day, and he said, I'd like a job." And the guy said, "I told you yesterday." And he goes, "I don't know if somebody quit yesterday, and now you need somebody."
Yeah.
And then he showed up the third day, and the guy said, "What are you doing here? Just go get me a cup of coffee." And he goes, "So I got a job." And he goes, "And I sat there and I waited until I saw people run it. I'd go and shadow everybody. I'd learn the job. One day, I knew that a disc jockey was getting drunk, and he was not going to be able to do his job. And he couldn't, and they called and they said, "Is anybody down there that can do a job?" And he said, "No, sir." And he said, "Do you know how to do it?" And he said, "Absolutely." And he stepped up, and he already had his catchphrase going, and he rattled it off. And you just keep plugging away and doing it over and over and over again for things that work.
One of my mentors early on, he told me, he's like, it pained him that I was going to be leaving his company. And I'm like, "What do you mean? I work for you." He's like, "No, you're going to do much more than paint houses for me. And it's because you show up on time and you do what you say you're going to do. And those are the two keys to being fucking successful. Show up on time every time."
We break it down to under promise and over deliver.
Yeah.
If you can do something in a week, you tell them you can do it in a week and a half, and you get it done in 5 days.
And
it comes down to, like, my most recent position. I had a terrible gatekeeper. I love her to death, but I would get paged a dozen times a day with somebody trying to sell something. She made no effort to stop it.
Now, I will say this. The lady on the front desk at Remax is amazing.
Cindy. Oh, man. Cindy, if you're watching somehow,
yes,
you're awesome.
We love you. Amazing at gatekeeping for that.
Yeah.
She will always pass a message from a solicitation, but she will never.
Well,
she's amazing at it. Sorry.
One of my funniest days, I was super frustrated one day, and my receptionist could see me from where she sat. I mean, the dealerships are made of glass.
Right, yeah.
And I could hear her on the phone saying, "Oh, you're looking for David. That's who you're looking for." And I'm like, son of a bitch. And then she would turn and look at me and page me. The entire store, like outside, inside, every building.
She does. She sits right across from the.
Do a power move and stare right back at her, and just pick the phone up and then hang it back up.
And the problem was, I could never tell if it was an upset customer or a vendor or the other store. And she would just stare me down and go, "David, line 1," and hang up the phone. Bitch. Like, that's all I could think. And I'd pick up the phone, and I could never tell if I was getting ready to get blindsided with an angry customer.
And that's another thing. When Cindy does put a call through, mate, she'll tell you, "Oh, this is so-and-so, they're calling about such and such. Let me know when you've got a pen and you're ready, and I'll put you through."
Right.
She'll just leave them on hold till you tell them. She's wonderful. Sorry.
It's one of the few times I've really gotten angry at somebody at work. I walked over, I said, "Look, I need you to at least figure out who these people are." She goes, "That's not what I do." And I said, "Okay, then what you're currently doing I can replace with a keypad. So, stop it."
Right.
Talking of subtle management.
But it's true that
I can replace you with a press 1 for sales, press 2 for
Oh, a little phone tree.
Yeah.
Ouch.
write it down and pass the note on, because it makes
the same thing, with porters. I always, in any business, 20% of your staff, which are usually your lowest paid people, are going to cause you 80% of your problem.
Oh, all day long.
And they either don't show up for work.
Did you say Pareto's law?
What?
Pareto's law?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's they either don't show up for work, or they just don't work very hard, or they overpromise and underdeliver constantly, and it's really tough because they have to exist.
But if my career's detailing cars, I'm sorry, there's going to be some illicit substances getting smoked in the back as I'm washing them.
Well, but
if that's my career.
I had a GM early in my career who told me, he goes, "Listen, you got to stop getting frustrated with the wash rack."
People go to that level.
Yeah.
They're like water. They settle to their level.
Because you can't keep getting irritated with the wash rack.
Well,
you're expecting, so minimum wage pay brings you minimum wage effort.
Right.
And it's true that I try to overpay people, because I remember working for lower wages and how hard it was to live. But at some point, if you are in a job, and I see it all the time in social media, the minimum wage needs to be increased. No, it doesn't. And here's why.
It's for kids. It's for a stopgap.
If you are being paid minimum wage in your position, it means your employer is saying, "I would love to pay you less, but legally I can't."
I can't.
Right. So This segues really, really nicely.
Get a talent, get a skill, get something.
Right. This segues really, really nicely into a Facebook rant from a attorney, a very well-respected fella.
I remember this.
Yeah, no problems with the guy at all. But he's got a lot of friends that are older. So a lot of the comments on the post were from old people going, yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think he's incorrect. So his comment was that he had hired a kid out of the law program here, a best and brightest, and the kid had quit after 3 days in the file room, saying, this isn't really the opportunity I thought it was. This isn't what I want to do, right? Which, to me, quitting after 3 days with no notice is perfectly forgivable. We're 3 days in, all right? I'm losing fucking 16, 18, 24 hours of time.
Sure.
Whatever. If you don't like it, I'd rather you quit now.
I lost a couple $100.
I'd rather you quit now before we finish onboarding you and set up pay and do all that shit. Just quit now. I'll cut you a check. Well, off you go. Right? That to me is much more convenient than somebody saying, I don't like it. I'll stay here 2 more weeks while you do what with me? What am I going to do? Train him for 2 more weeks?
Well, I'll stay here for 2 more weeks while I find another job.
No, just let's cut our losses, right? I've had a go. It's not really what I expected. Thanks. I'm off to go a little ways.
Well, and a lot of that falls on both sides. For one, not conveying expectations.
Right.
And 2, not conveying what the job entailed.
Right. But you've got to look at it like his rant was, this generation doesn't know what hard work is and everything else. And I had to step up and I provided the counter argument to that.
Yeah.
Very, very well thought out. But if I'm a best and brightest from A&M Law School, I don't want to spend 3 months or 6 months or whatever in a file room sorting files. I've just graduated. I'm out of school. I'm going to work. I want to earn what I'm worth, right?
Well, that brings me. Hold on. That brings me back to something. That brings me back to something that I've said.
Wait, we've got to say hi to Matt from Thailand. He's just paged in.
Hey, what's up, man?
And and hi to everyone. There's a lot of people on
Matt's
tonight.
on his honeymoon.
Matt's on his honeymoon. Well, I saw some pictures out there. Phuket. Phuket. Yeah. Well, hi, Matt in Phuket. I hope it's cool out there.
We're gonna sell that house, Matt.
Yeah. So now,
that brings me back to something that I've said on the podcast before, which I completely. That whole thing crushed my train of thought.
Sorry.
It crashed, everybody died. It was
from
terrible.
Thailand. It's an international viewer.
It's an international viewer.
Yeah, we have England, now we've got Thailand. We're covering the globe, man.
That's right.
But my least favorite group of individuals in the world is recent college graduates.
Right.
Within the first 6 months. Because you talk about, I
they
deserve
know
what
everything.
I'm worth.
Yeah, they know
Well,
everything.
you're not worth anything yet.
Right, but hold on, right? So we're not talking college graduates, right? I'm talking best and brightest, like the cream of these guys,
but
right?
still, they don't have any functional knowledge.
No.
You're saying something that can be bridged, I think, with the gap where you could say about your expectations, where if somebody came in and it was a college grad and you said, hey, you're going to be filing systems or you're going to be filing reports and stuff, and he's like, well, I got a law degree. If you say,
you're filing reports because
15 hours of your week is this, what would you like another 10 of them to be? I'd like to learn this. And you go, okay, let's do that,
well,
but you're going to file this because
if
expectations and...
It's like if you graduate with an engineering degree.
Right.
Your first several years of your career is sitting there drafting a professional engineer's work.
Right.
And you're somebody's draft bitch for several years.
Absolutely.
And the reason is, you're going, I have an engineering degree. Great, but you have no functional experience.
I've got to come back
they
to
also
why.
need to go back on the thing that they're doing those sketches and doing those.
I've got to come back to
they
the
need to
why
say,
here.
I would like to also learn this.
But
and
if he had set that expectation,
which he did
with that employee.
Society's changed, though.
Well, but hold on. If he had set that expectation with the employee and said, you're going to be doing filing for the first 6 months, and here's why. Because in this process, you're going to learn how to pull these files, how these are put together,
why the reports work the way they do.
How the legal briefs are put together. But he didn't. He said, "Okay, go get in the file room, work with Steve."
Yeah, we might let you out in a bit. But
6 months.
Where I see why it's changed as a societal change now, it's never been easier for the best and brightest to make money on the internet, because $1,000 a week.
If I am graduating from A&M with a law degree and I've run up $100,000 in student debt, I'm not doing it to get on the internet and sell things. I'm doing it to become a lawyer.
I understand that, but is there a place for somebody that's best and brightest in a file room, or is the world much bigger now? Because what does he need to practice law? Is he legally able to practice law straight out of law school? I don't know these things.
Once he passes the bar.
Right, so if I can work towards passing the bar and be legally able to practice law...
But you've had these conversations about rookie real estate agents.
Absolutely.
Where they come in and they don't know anything. Yes, they're licensed by the state as a realtor. Mm-hmm. However,
That's it.
Can they put together a deal by themselves? Absolutely not.
A real estate agent. We will. One of these days, I will have a rant about realtor and the real estate monopoly and what Zillow's doing to it. But I plan on doing a very, very well presented talk. Actually, I think it will go a long way as to the real estate business and the way it's set up and structured through realtors and through MLS systems and through how Zillow is going to make realtors have a very uncomfortable time by using licensed real estate agents, which are two different things. So when you pass the test, you become a sales agent, and then in order to sell houses actually specifically in a local area, you have to join their multiple listing service and become a realtor, which is it's basically a trademark. It's an association. It's a powerful, very powerful group. But you can sell property without being a realtor. So what I think is going to happen...
I thought you were going to put together a well thought out...
I am. But what I think is going to happen, and I will put this and back this up with numbers, and back this up with data, because there's a lot of people that our age talking about it, and there's a lot of people at the upper levels not talking about it, and it's quite concerning. But I believe that with selling the data that we produce, that we make and that we own, to third parties such as Zillow, who then, instead of, it's not an open marketplace where you see my listing and you call me. On Zillow, you see my listing and you call whoever Zillow has paid to sit next to my listing. So Zillow's making money off our data and then charging realtors to use that data back, right?
People who paid Zillow to get those referrals.
Right. So what I think is going to happen, I think Zillow absolutely has cornered the marketplace now. Over 80% of real estate searches start on Zillow. They don't start on Realtor.com. They don't start on the local MLS. They start on Zillow. And what's going to happen with Zillow controlling that market, one day, just like that, right, you're not going to see it coming. They're going to remove those realtors and they're going to call
it's going to be
click now to talk to a sales professional.
Zillow in-house.
It's the same thing that Geico
They're
has
going
tried
to
to
license
do with their
agents. They're going to license agents in the state. They're going to put the agents on a salary.
And the agents are going to work for Zillow.
And it's a flat fee, and they're going to work for Zillow, and realtors will be gone unless they change tack right now.
Or
if, it may be too late.
And if you get another thing with the real estate side of it is getting a good understanding and a good base with people who really trust you and who come to you.
Right.
Because I have people who will literally give me Zillow listings and they say, can we go see these? And they have already trusted me enough to know that, but they're still getting the information.
They're getting the information from Zillow.
And they're bringing it to me, and I'm like, absolutely, we can go.
80% of all home sales searches now start on that platform.
And unless you have that base or you cultivate it, you're going to be...
The National Association of Realtors has an annual budget of over $2 billion, right, with a B. Can they compete with Zillow quick enough and hard enough and fast enough to protect the realtor?
Well, that's one of the problems with it turning a big ship, right?
Right.
Is that Zillow
was a tiny little boat when it started.
Yeah.
And it could be as maneuverable and as quick
Well,
as
I'm seeing the
cars
same
and stuff too.
seeing the same thing in my industry. And Eric said something a second ago when it comes to training people that he's right. In auto sales, there's a huge learning curve to be able to do it effectively. Well,
absolutely. I would have failed in auto sales in my 20s, and I believe now I would, if I wanted to, on the sales floor, I would be very good at selling
You would
cars.
have to be in a store that would allow you to do things the way you want to do it.
Right.
And there's, you look at Sewell's a great example. Sewell has their entire model built around recruiting and highly paying college graduates to have a young, hungry sales force.
Yeah.
They get to shape them.
That they get to shape. What's interesting about their model, though, is that none of their upper management come from within that model. And talking about, we're just about out of time. I have to give a quick shout out because I got a text and not a post, but to Kenny, who is watching. Kenny's a diesel tech at the local Ford store. Who
shout out to Kenny.
I love Kenny to death.
And Eric follows us all over the world, so we'll give him a shout out.
Love Kenny to death. He's awesome. But he's a great example of a guy who got into the industry and works his ass off. Is a younger guy that works his ass off and runs circles around the older, more established technicians, and has created a niche in diesel
Because he had the desire to go do it.
because he had the drive.
Is he the one that does the things in like ever so many hours? Like
Yeah,
up,
he's
down,
very,
in
very
and out?
quick on flat rate.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have a lot of comebacks, and he does good work. Not to puff up your ego or anything.
But he has told me about you previously, so there must be something there, mate.
I've never heard of you.
Stranger danger. Stranger danger. All right. So
on that
bombshell, guys, we could talk all night. There's a load of topics we've got here that we haven't covered, including Prince Harry leaving the royal family. So we might have to get that next week.
That'll be next week.
Next week's episode. Thank you. I have had the phone open, and we've had a bunch of watchers today. I think we got up to 20 people on the channel at once live, which for live is good for us. We normally get a few hundred or even a few thousand, depending on the guest. So views during the week, but live, getting 20 on live is good. So thank you for watching, guys. We will see you all same time next week with a guest. David's going to be out. I want to throw a huge shout out to Alex and David, obviously, the Texas Media Foundry, for doing their stuff behind us. They've actually got some really neat prints out. If you get time, go to their website and check that out. I'm sure they'll leave a link under here. And of course to Cavalier Cigar for having us. So from all of us, we're looking forward to 2020. I think it's going to be a good year. All right, we will see you all same time next week. You'll stay safe. Bye.